All right, so here is the beginning of FGO Famitsu article with Kano Yoshiki, aka Mr. 2 interview. If you do not know, this is the 10th year and we're going to be interviewing and live translating. It's going to be section by section, so make sure you hit that like, comment, and subscribe. Here we go. So, the interviewer asks, FGO has finally reached its 10th Annie. Mr. 2 says that is correct. My goodness, it has been quite long. It says, if the staff members that we can say that were here till the very beginning, we had been together and hanging out for this project for about 10 years. I must say, I am already 50. It says, as an average worker, I probably have maybe 10 years left. And then the interviewer asks, if you got 10 more years, can we get to 20th anniversary? Lol, right? As a joke, right? It says, can we ask you to do 10 more years of FGO? Mr. 2 laughs in response. It says, but to be perfectly honest, the first time I stepped on stage around the 3rd anniversary, I really didn't truly understand and felt what it meant to be reaching for the 10th year. But I now know that we've spent quite the extraordinary amount to get this far. And then the interviewer specifically says, indeed, a long time has been passed. In this 10 years, looking back, what's the most impressionable thing that you can remember? Mr. 2 says, there's a lot. However, the one that I have embedded was definitely the timing of LB6. That singularity, aka lost belt, right? That timing was a growing method for the development side of things and operation side. We can even say that it is a chapter that practically created and opened up new doors and opportunities. The sheer amount of scenario, passion, and volume of Mr. Nasu was so large. It says, when I jumped in on the project, I was a little bit worried that I was not able to project LB6 properly with the current back then operation development team. ボリュームが大きすぎて、私がプロジェクトに入った当時はあの章を十分に表しきれるだけの開発力はなかったんです。でも第2部6章をきちんとユーザー様方に届けるには、制作が始まるまでだけではなく、制作中にもチームは成長しなければいけなかった。So yeah, so at the very beginning, right, essentially Mr. 2, when he started the project, he did not have enough development staff or power to properly project or give emotion and feelings, kind of like construct LB6 the way they were, okay? But because in order to properly give out Season 2, Chapter 6 to the user base, not only we needed to upgrade the production team, but also the development team and the production team also had to grow as we went along. And then the interviewer goes, oh, I see. In order to pull this off, everybody had to grow. And they had to, quote unquote, get better. And then Mr. 2 specifically says that is correct. Because we were able to create that chapter, LB6, we were able to increase the scale and the capacity and our capability. 自分たちの能力がカパシティの大きくスケールアップできたと実感しています。So it says that chapter proved to us that we had the ability to have this scale enlarged, right? That's where they felt that they were able to notice that they've grew as a team. They felt as a dev team, production team. It's essentially, they felt finishing LB6 and the product of LB6 acknowledged that they were growing as a company, aka their development staff. FGO にとっても開発にとっても第2部をやっていく中で一番の起点になっている。できたと思います。できたことだと思います。So it says, as an FGO and as a developer, I believe it was the origin point that we were able to do season 2 really well. It's kind of like a quote unquote show of proof of how amazing you can do as a team. And that's what Mr. 2 is saying, that practically LB2's scale, length, time, expression, storytelling, animation, music, etc. was practically the gigantic origin point of just saying, hey, Lasengle / dev team really did go above and beyond, and we're able to pull it off. Even Takeuchi, Mr. Takeuchi has admitted that was definitely a turning point or a quote unquote point to remember for, right? It says it's not just us, but I believe Mr. Type Moon and the others, something has changed as well for certain. And last but not least, of course, the Corona Pod. The C pot, you know what I'm saying? The owner. And then the interviewer specifically asked from 2019 to 2020, correct? That's around season 2, chapter 5. Mr. 2 specifically says that is correct. If I remember correctly, that was right after we were able to release Olympus. That was when we made our entire development team into a full remote mode. Due to constant emergency notice that would pop up every so often, or maybe not, they have always stated, and we were very afraid, that we were not able to get to the office and we were going to have problems due to that sheer factor. But there was no way that we can stop FGO there. And so we've gotten all the people immediately into a live streaming gears and prepared everybody to be able to work remotely as fast as we could. We've created certain groups, factions, and a paper list of where people live in order to be able toじゃあみんなしばらくのお別れだってブワッと送り出した。ここで FGO を止めるわけにはいかないと急いで配達の作業員さんを手足めて開発陣にも住所などのリストを作ってもらい、じゃあみんなしばらくのお別れだってブワーッと送り出した。So essentially, Mr. 2 specifically is saying that due to the fact that they weren't able to come to the office anymore, they immediately switched to full remote, right? At home work immediately. They knew that FGO cannot stop here nor there, so he asked every single like people that can move, right? Move, and like essentially called up its grunts and people to come up with a list of who lives where, what lives what, and quote unquote getting all the like Zoom calls. Kind of essentially created a remote work site online. So people can stream their work and then stream with conversations, and got list of their where they live, and kind of said goodbye everyone, this will be a quote unquote goodbye everyone, this will be a momentarily of absence, right? Because you know they all have to go remote work instead of office work. And then he sent those messages. It says, you've got a lot to prepare, I bet. Was the struggle really difficult? And then Mr. 2 says, that is correct. However, changing it to full remote mode had its benefits, unironically. It says, in actuality, FGO team, we are still in remote mode and we are continuing to work to this day. After all, it says if we want team-based segments to continue our story, we practically have an online meeting sessions and make sure that we see eye to eye, you know, obviously screen to screen. It says personally, if they want to concentrate on something that they really want to focus on, they have their own environment to hone down their effort. というリモートの利点を生み出しながら開発にやっていました。It says because we had these remote values, we were able to continue develop, and due to that, utilizing that effect. 逆に環境を工作するきっかけにもなったと。The interviewer asks, because of the certain event, right? I'm gonna say the the party, the pot. Due to that effect, you guys were able to quote unquote come up with additional, interesting method to kind of get the team going, group going, etc. ああいう出来事があったからこそですね。And Mr. 2 agrees in saying, yes, we were able to modify a lot of things due to the C word happening. And then the interviewer asked, speaking of the pot of the sea, right, aka Rona, this really affected the real live event, and that has been canceled, correct? Can we get more on that? そうですね、東京ドームの開発がなくなって代わりに周年記念の生放送で内部内でやるなどしました。すごく覚えているのが、それよりも前にやっただいぶな小さいスタジオを借りての生放送です。我々に関係者と皆さんと再会できてとても嬉しくて、見やかな会議場での配信ではあったのですが、少しずつコロナを乗り越え始めているかもなと思いました。そう考えると本当にこの10年間、山盛り谷ありでした。思い返すとキリがないかも。haha. So, interviewer asks, right? Real event got canceled. Can we talk a little bit more about that? It says that is correct. Due to the fact that we're no longer able to venue at the Tokyo Dome, and simultaneously we were going to we were doing a we were going to do a live stream. We were going to do a live stream inside the prefecture, which, live stream at the Tokyo, in the specific area. What I remember the most is it says before the big live stream, it was the tiny outside venue that we had, and we borrowed a studio to do a live stream. So like one live stream before the big Tokyo Dome live stream. The sheer fact that it has been quite a while for all the like voice actors, staff members, anybody that has been involved into this entire FGO project, the fact that we were able to reunite once more, I was quite happy. We were able to live stream things on a very small room. 密室な会場で配信であったのですが、少しずつ。But this also indicated that little by little we were overcoming the party of C, right? Rona. In my honest opinion. However, if I start thinking about that year, to be perfectly honest, this entire 10-year had valleys and mountains. Looking back to it, there's a lot of things I probably want to talk about. Parentheses, lol. Meaning that Mr. 2 is like, yeah, that year was rough. 画像全体に見てもこの10年は激動だと思います。ではせめて2014年8月からいいので10年目にフォーカスしてお話をお聞きしたいです。第2部終章に向けた準備で忙しい1年だったと思いますが。So the interviewer goes, yes, like entire industry wise, we can definitely notice that this 10 years was quite the battle and, you know, quite the shenanigans, right? So let me hone this question more thoroughly. Starting from 2024 August, the 10th year focus, can we hear more about that? You are preparing for the final chapter of season 2. I bet it was quite the busy year till now, even then. It says, we were able to tell what we could to the user base, and we told the user base everything we've got, and now we've created a straight path to the final chapter. And it was clear as day, crystal clear that it was going to be happening. So our feelings was now we just need to run through it. It's essentially, they created the timeline. They just needed to run through that timeline. It says, as a directional job, it was quite the simple. かつクリアな状態と言いますか。年収イベントがあって、総称3があって、イベントをやりつけて、総称4があって、代行グランド対抗戦があって、ひたすら総称まで道を積み上げていくような、そんな1年間です。So it says, yeah. When it comes to direction-wise, as a job, it became a bit simpler, right? Because the clear condition was obviously as follows. We got the anniversary event, and then we got the Ordeal Call 3, and then after Ordeal Call, we got a couple of other events, and then we got Ordeal Call 4, and then we got the Grand Battle Duel, and we were practically bricking the road, right, quote unquote, creating the brick path to the road to the final chapter. That is definitely what the year felt like. And then interviewer asked, then if that's the case, are you suggesting that it wasn't as busy as you anticipated? And then Mr. 2 goes, not at all. It says, yeah, it was quite the opposite. Parentheses, lol. Because we were so crystal clear on what we needed to do. We knew the 10th year was going to be yabai. AKA 10th year was going to be intense. And so while we were prepared for that, we're still walking through it intensely. I sincerely believe back in the time. It says, yeah, after all, we got 2 main stories to go through simultaneously. The new system, Grand Servant, and their Grand Servants and their quote unquote animations and their busting them out. It says on top of that, we have to maintain events as normally as possible. 通常通り, yeah, normally as possible, and that was quite Yeah, that was quite the task. It says, as a development team, it was quite an irregularly a heavier year. It says, I gotta tell you, last year it felt like a one long summer. 去年は本当に長い夏だったな。遠い目をしながら。It says, yeah, yeah, last year felt like a one long summer. As he looked distance to the, as he looks distance with his eyes kind of looking through. So the interviewer goes, parentheses, lol. Ordeal Call 3 was a very special circumstances of structured in order for it to pop out. Was that part a difficult part for you to handle? Mr. Kano specifically says, that is correct. After all, it was unprecedented in the past to do it like exactly this way. To connect a summer event story to a main quest, after all. It says, Ordeal Call 3 wasn't completely cooked right from the release. Even after the release, we were constantly chasing and making it as we go. And because of that, the very busy summer sensation was definitely the continuation of that feeling, I suppose. For an example, during the last scene of the summer event, when the happiness counter goes tremendously out of bound and gone haywire, that specific animation, we couldn't create, we couldn't like create a blank canvas or a blank space, or like, essentially, we didn't want to jump that happiness counter surprise jump scare to Ordeal Call 3, right? It's a そこから間を開けすぎてしまうわけにはいかないじゃないですか. So essentially, that after the summer event's last scene, in order to connect you to the Ordeal Call 3, we needed to do something to make sure that it transitioned into Ordeal Call 3. And we couldn't, we couldn't let the development team be late and disturb the user base's play experience. Simultaneously, we can't destroy the atmosphere and the vibe of the story, specifically having that moment of connecting the summer story into an ordeal call. That is something that we cannot have. So while this was happening, or while this was developing, we definitely were on our toes and was sweating a lot to make sure that it functioned accordingly. 実際イベント会中なのにもうメインクエストが始まるのみたいな驚きがありましたね。It says, in actuality, while we are, so the quote-unquote interviewer specifically says, in actuality, while we are in the current event, there's already a main quest starting. A lot of people were definitely taken by surprise with this surprise gimmick. And Mr. 2 answers, with that surprise feeling involved and with that surprise feeling in mind, we needed to make sure that transition between the event story into the main story was a necessity thing that we could not mess up. It says here, we definitely paid attention on that part for certain to make sure, to make sure that it was effective. It says, because of a long summer, because of this amazing long summer, we had such passions and emotion that we felt for certain. It says, then please do tell me, going back through this entire year, tell me the servant who has given you the most deepest impression. Mr. 2 specifically says, of course, it was definitely Space Ereshkigal. It was an anniversary servant, a beast, a swimsuit, and had a unique system on top of it. It was a servant that had a gimmick on gimmick on gimmick, for certain. And because to create that so much, it definitely took tremendous amount of efforts and feelings and determination, for certain. And an interviewer definitely asked, it says, yes, the bond/liking system was indeed blew me out of the waters. You guys even implemented the fact that you can borrow your friends, but the likeness/bond meter was not going to go up. It was quite the slick gimmick. I was quite impressed. And then Mr. 2 answers, it says, that was a suggestion that writer have, that was a suggestion that writer has told us. During the person in charge, the writer, right? The quote unquote writer, the artist as well, also has stated that if you are borrowing this as a friend, this gimmick doesn't function, correct? And when asked, she specifically says, obviously. And that's how it went. It says it was a rough development process, but when the actual release date came out and the emotions of surprise and impact impact both sides in many different ways, it was very impressionable and definitely something to remember by. Space Ereshkigal was very impressionable after all, right? Like, it's essentially Mr. 2 is saying that the artist who made Space Ereshkigal specifically says no bond gimmick if you're borrowing it to a friend, obviously, when we ask that question, right? So Mr. 2, or the person who was in charge for the artist, specifically said no bond gimmick if you're borrowing, right? And then the artist says obviously, and then developing that was a little difficult, but because because of their hard efforts, they were able to make it possible. Because when it came out, it was very impactful, impressive, impressionable. Space Ereshkigal in both ways, and many more ways than one. All right, that concludes the part 1 of the interview. We got about a couple more parts, so make sure you guys hit that like, comment, and subscribe. We got a lot to go through, so thank you guys so much. Greatly appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye. Is it a writer or is it an artist? It is a... It was a writer. If you read the previous article, the writer asked the question to the artist. The artist knew what they wanted. And the writer asked the question, if it's friend, no bond. And the artist says, obviously. And the artist suggested this bond gimmick, and also suggested that if you are borrowing it, it should not count because no NTR shit. Okay? So I hope that cleared that a little bit there. I needed to, if you guys had a question. So, hey, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.